Hello. Happy Wednesday morning, guys. It's Tara here, coming to you live at my normal time. I'm just double checking myself. Yeah, just about 10 o'clock on the East Coast on Wednesday mornings. I come to you live and I do a Workshop Wednesday video for you. And this Workshop Wednesday video is always mostly for women. Of course, I won't kick any men out, but I'm really speaking to women and women who are looking to get healthier and also improve their body and their minds, okay, at the same time. So they're looking for greater health, they're looking to accomplish some body goals, they're looking to accomplish some mindset goals, because those things all live in the same space. We can't really tease out one without the other. So that's what these Workshop Wednesday videos are for you. Today we're talking about fat loss, and we're specifically talking about fat loss when it comes to meal timing. So if you're joining me live, please say hello. I love to be interactive with you guys, so I don't feel like I'm just talking to myself in my iPhone. And if you're watching the reset, please also say hello, because I always come back and I'll answer your questions and just like to say hello too. So, all right, this video is for you if you're looking to tone up, if you're looking to lose weight. Those are all things that really mean that you're looking to lose body fat, okay? So the things that people usually say is that they want to lose weight, and so they're talking about a number on the scale. Or they say that they want to, tone up. So there's plenty of people that are unconcerned with the scale on the weight, or they don't, they feel like their weight is fine, they're in a healthy weight range, they're not looking to necessarily lose weight, but they feel like they would like to be a little bit fitter. They feel like they would like their clothes to fit better. They feel like they would like to maybe gain some muscle or definition, or tone up is the word that I hear a lot. And all that means really is losing body fat, okay? Because we can't actually turn anything, like you can't turn a jiggly area into muscle. Once it's there and it's jiggly and it's fat, you can't then turn it into muscle. So it's a two-step process. You need to be working on your muscles and you need to be burning off the fat. So it's a whole process there. So we're talking about today specifically how meal timing can affect your fat loss. We're going to be nerding out a bit because we're going to be talking about insulin today in particular. I'm going to explain those things for you. But before I get into that, it's reset day 3. So some of you guys may know I am doing a reset, a 10-day Healthy New You reset, which I ran a few times last year, and we're on day 3 right now with the group that I've got going through it right now. If you see me drinking my coffee, it's decaf coffee. So if you're on the reset, you know why. It's decaf coffee, so don't worry. Hi, Tiffany. Thanks for joining. Tiffany, you'll appreciate this. My little stroller here, this is how I roll. This was given to me by a friend when I was pregnant with my first, and it's like my favorite mug of all times. This is how I roll. On the other side it says New Mommy, and I will probably rock this thing until it breaks. In fact, it already has a little chip right there. And it's decaf coffee, Tiffany. Tiffany's doing the reset with us, and so she knows that we got to do decaf. Okay, so this is what I want to talk about with the reset. Why do I run this reset? It won't solve everything, right? I need you guys to know, if you're doing the reset with me or if you're considering doing one in the future with me, the reset is temporary, it's 10 days, and it will not solve everything. It is not a long-term fix. But the reason that I do it is because it will create some results for you. It will get you to commit to something. So you're finally saying, not that you're going to try something, because when you say you're going to try something, that's leaving wiggle room for not actually doing it, right? So you never say, like, when you're pregnant, you don't say, I'm going to try to give birth to this kid. Like, no, I'm giving birth to this kid, right? It's going to happen one way or another. You don't try to go to work today. It's like, you make a decision, you're going to go to work today, right? So this reset is a short-term commitment. It's sort of like getting things going, and it allows you to commit to something. So I know you guys are already in the middle of the reset, so that means you already are committed to it, but that's the reason that it works. So then you get some results, you feel really proud of yourself, you feel like you can do this, you can commit, and you can make more changes, and from there, you're able to make more positive results because you're feeling positive about yourself. So before we get into talking about fat loss, I think it's important to say this. this is, while we all care about the way that we look and everything, decaf coffee, exactly, Tiffany. We care about the way we look, right? We want to feel okay. We want to feel like good in our skin and confident and all that stuff. But it's so much more than that. We want to feel energetic. We want to feel like we can look people in the eyes. These are all things that people will say when they've sort of let themselves go. These are the words that they say. I've let myself go. I'm not, I kind of hide under my clothes. I can't even look people in the eyes. They don't feel like themselves. And rather than trying to get to a point where you're trying to be you from 10 years ago or you from 20 years ago, you can be a new you that you haven't even seen yet. You can be a new version of you. So this is you, but the future you, right? This is you, but the present you is on a journey to get to that future you. And it can be still with the same responsibilities. If you're a mama now, that's not going away, right? And you can have your new version of this body, your new version of a mindset, which can be everything, and some new renewed health. That's important, okay? So fat loss, weight loss, these things are sensitive topics. These are the things I talk about every day, but they're very sensitive. And so before we really dive into the science-y kind of details and the things that I want you to know, I really want you to know that you cannot hate yourself through a transformation. Okay, so if you're coming from a place where you don't like the way that you look, but like you're really beating up on yourself, you're not going to change from that place. And this is not like, I want you to be nice to yourself, so you actually will change, but I'm just going to say that you won't because I don't want you to hate yourself. No, it's actually not going to happen for you for the long term. If you hate yourself through a transformation, it's not going to last. And why is that? Well, when we're hating on ourselves, then we run to, our brain doesn't like to be uncomfortable, so we run to the things that comfort us. We run to the things that make us feel safe. Hi, Amy. Hi, Megan. Hi, Pratima. Thanks for joining. So when we're feeling like we hate ourselves, we try to look for those things that are comforting. And for a lot of us, and for a lot of you watching the video, because this is the video that you're choosing to watch, we run to food. Maybe it's wine. Maybe you also do this with shopping or something. But we all have certain things that we run to for comfort. And so if you're hating on yourself, your brain, your psychology is going to force you to turn to the way that you know how to comfort yourself, okay? Does this resonate with any of you guys? Can you just give me a like or a comment or something if this sounds familiar? Have you ever beat yourself up? Let's say you had 3 cookies and you weren't planning on having any cookies because you were on a diet or whatever, you're working on your goals, and so you throw in the towel, and you're like, well, I might as well eat a few more cookies, and then I might as well order pizza for dinner, and I'll just start on Monday, right? So, but really, if you had stopped yourself and didn't eat the 4th cookie, you could have stopped yourself in the track. The reason why that happened is because you were feeling so down on yourself, you figured, well, I can't do this anyway, I'm not even going to try, rather than saying, I can just start at this point. Like, I can't change the fact that I ate the 3 cookies, but whatever, it's fine. Brush myself off, and then you're feeling okay about yourself, and then you're willing to go on and make some better choices because you're not coming from a place of hatred. So of course, it's nice to be nice to yourself. Of course, that's a great thing and it's a great feeling. But on top of that, like scientifically, you cannot make any sort of lasting change unless you do accept yourself for who you are, for what you do, for the weight that you're at right now, for all of those things. Like, it's just a part of your story and it's okay. Tiffany says it's all about mindset and consistency. It's a never-ending process. It's so true. It's so true. We're going to be humans for as long as we're here, right? We're always going to be human. We're always going to have that crazy spectrum of human emotions. We're always going to, our brain's always going to want to tell us to be comfortable. It's going to be like throwing tantrums when we're trying to do something new. We want to stick to our old mindset, even though our old mindset is what got us to be where we're at right now. And we need a new mindset to get us to the next place that we're going, right? So it's so true, Tiffany. Thank you for writing that. Okay, so we can't hate ourselves through change. That's important to note. Now let's get into like the nerdy stuff here. All right, what happens when we eat a meal? So in this case, I'm talking about regular meals. The only thing that would be different about this is if you ate purely fat, but I don't know anybody, even people that are in ketosis usually have some protein with the fat. So So just assuming going forward that I'm talking about any kind of a meal that has some sort of a balance between carbs, protein, and fat, or even just protein and fat. Wait, Tiffany says, I've learned life will always happen and it's how we deal. Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Resilience, coping skills, these are all things that we need when we want to have anything happen for us, right? So if we want to have a positive mindset, if we want to lose the weight, all that stuff, we need to deal with it better. Exactly what you're saying. Okay, so we eat a meal and insulin is released. So insulin's a hormone that we're going to be talking about a bit today, and it's a fat storage hormone, which is a good thing. So if you've ever watched my video on overeating and why it's so hard to stop overeating, I've gotten it, maybe I'll link that in the comments. It talks about why if you have a tendency to overeat, to binge eat, to emotional eat, you sort of are winning. And the reason is because back in the day when we didn't have a lot of food available, or sometimes there was food available and sometimes, there was a famine or a long, hard winter or something, if you had the ability to eat really fast and lots of high-fat foods in particular, things that could store very well as body fat, and then you can store it really well as body fat. Like my body is a body that stores body fat very, very well. I have PCOS, and that's just one of the things that comes with that. But if your body is if you say, I just look at that cookie and it just goes to my hips or something like that, if you feel like you store body fat very quickly, that's part of your genetics that have gotten you to survive because you had to survive those famines and those harsh winters. So if we can start to look at it like that, we can actually appreciate that our bodies are doing something for us that it's meant to do for survival. But of course, here we are, and food's available, everywhere. For everyone who's going to be watching this video, it's really readily available. Food is everywhere. And that's not the problem anymore, right? So we're sort of having the opposite problem. But if you can first appreciate that your body is doing something to keep you safe, that's a good way to come. Hi, Colleen. Thanks for joining. So insulin is released when we eat, and it's a fat storage hormone. It wants to store fat. It wants to store, and fat, by the way, is stored food energy. So I don't like to usually talk in terms of calories because the truth is our body doesn't have any sort of a receptor for calories. There's nothing that's like, oh, you've had 500 calories this meal, so we can turn it off. Our body doesn't care. A calorie is just when you heat something up, the amount of energy that's released. And there's calories in everything. There could be calories in wood chips. There could be, for argument's sake, let's say there's 10,000 calories in a certain amount of wood. But if you ate that, you wouldn't gain any weight because our bodies can't absorb that, right? So that just goes to show that calories really aren't everything. It's not an exact science, and it's not the way that I prefer people to. I just think it gets people really obsessive, and it's not even really that effective, and it's just really not the way that I like to teach people to gain control over their weight and their body and their health. So I like to think of it in terms of energy. So fat is stored food energy. That's all it is, right? So our body wants to store some fat so that during the times that we don't have access to food, then it can have that. That's what the fat is there for. The fat is meant to be stored and then used, and then stored and then used. So that's all it is. We want to be tapping into our fat storage to actually utilize it as food. So when insulin is elevated, it's telling our bodies to store the fat. So when insulin is elevated, you're then not able to tap into your fat stores in order to actually use them up as energy, okay? So it's important for us to get to our fat stores if we want to burn them up, if we want to tone up, lose weight, all of that. But the only way to do so is to make sure our insulin levels, first of all, they don't go too high, and that they don't remain high. That's the important thing. When insulin levels come down, our body is able to access the fat and start to use that up. Hey, Mary, thanks for joining. Okay, so I got my notes over here. I'm sure you figured that out already. Insulin, I like to describe it as being like a dump truck. So the more stuff you have that you need to carry from one place to another, the more dump trucks you're going to need, and they start to clog the roads, right? So these dump trucks, they carry the stuff, which is sugar, carbs, everything breaks, carbs, sugar, fruit, the brownie, your latte, all of that stuff breaks down into sugars. And the dump truck picks up these sugars, that's the insulin, and carries it into your cells. So, hi Mary. So that's what the insulin does. Now, insulin in and of itself is extremely inflammatory. There's tons of research being done right now, some already done, but there's like a lot more to learn about this. But what studies are showing so far is that insulin seems to be even more inflammatory than the actual sugar. So elevated sugar, elevated carbs in your blood means that you have to release more insulin, but then that insulin seems to be what's extremely inflammatory, okay? And now when is insulin high? Insulin is high if you eat something that's very high in processed carbs, okay? Because when you take flour and sugar, these are all very refined. So you might take something like wheat, you strip off the fiber, you take away the proteins, you take away the fat because fat could go rancid, right? And they want this to be shelf stable. And you're left with this like powdery thing, right? Flour. And we absorb it so quickly, okay? So we absorb that so quickly and it spikes up our blood sugar and our body reacts by spiking up our insulin. So when you have more processed food, processed carbs, when you have the flour and the sugar, when you have more than your body actually requires, so this is when we're overeating, when we're sitting in front of the Netflix at night with our hand in the bag of potato chips, right? When we overeat, even if you're overeating on something healthy, you could technically overeat on, let's say, sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are great. I believe that they can be part of your healthy plan and everything, but you wouldn't want to sit down and have 5 sweet potatoes at once. That would really spike your blood sugar and really spike your insulin as a result. So if you're eating processed foods, flour and sugar, when you're eating too many carbs at once, and when you're eating too often. Because the other thing is that we want the insulin to come down. So even if you're not spiking your insulin too high, you could be just spiking it like a normal amount. But if you're eating then 2 hours later, and then 2 hours later, and then 2 hours later, you're not giving your insulin a chance to actually come down. And remember, when it comes down, that's when it signals your body that you can start burning fat. So we want it to have a chance to come down. If you're doing the reset with me, you notice that I included 2 small snacks. So I have people having breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a morning snack and an afternoon snack. The reason I've done that is for a few things. When we're changing up our plan, our eating plan so quickly like that, I don't want to take away everybody's comfort. I feel like if I went to just breakfast, lunch, and dinner, people might freak out. There's a lot of people that are eating 8 times a day, 10 times a day. Maybe you don't even realize it. You're snacking on, your kids' snack when they get home from school. And a lot of times there's some mindless eating going on too, right? So if you're going from eating so many times a day to just 3, that can be quite a shock. So I've included 2 small snacks. The truth is, for most of us, the place that we should end up getting to, for most people, this is not going to be everyone's case, but like 3 meals a day is perfect. If you're breastfeeding or you're pregnant or you do a lot of really intense exercise or something, of course, there's going to be exceptions. If one of your meals happens to be a bit smaller because you couldn't get a big meal or something, maybe you need 4 meals or something. But the point is we shouldn't be eating 10 times a day because it's just keeping our insulin elevated like this. And again, even if you're not having those foods that really spike it up, even if you're staying away from the sugar and the flour that make your insulin go way high, if it's just a little bit elevated from regular eating and you don't let it come down, you're never going to tap into your fat storage to be able to burn that off, okay? It's also why I don't like the calorie counting and super restrictive calories diets and plans, because if all you care about is the amount of calories you're taking in, that's not the whole picture. So you could be eating every hour and you could be having things that spike your insulin and still remain within the 1,200 calories. And what you're doing now is that you're not able to burn your fat, but you are signaling to your body that it needs to still manage to survive on 1,200 calories a day. So what does your body do as a result? Your body will lower its metabolism. So these are the people who have done all of these diets and things and brought their metabolism way down. There's a way to get out of it. But you've brought your metabolism way down because you've kept your insulin up, but you've lowered your calories, and your body's like, well, I gotta live, so now I have to learn how to live off of 1,200 calories. So guess what? You're gonna be fatigued because your body's trying to conserve energy. It doesn't want you out running around. It wants you to plop on the couch when you get home from work. And that's how it conserves energy. You're going to, even little things like you're not going to be fidgeting as much. It's crazy what our body does, but our body really knows how to conserve that energy. It's not going to be burning as much. Your brain is going to get tired because just thinking requires a lot of calories. It's something like 30% of our calories a day goes to our brain. So you're going to start to notice the brain fog and things are starting to shut down if all you do is restrict your calories, but you don't actually think about your physiology, such as your insulin. So what do I suggest then? So now I've told you all this stuff and it's like I don't want to leave you high and dry. I suggest that you take like 12 hours overnight to not eat anything that contains any sort of real energy. This is a good amount of time for people to get to, and it's not unrealistic usually for people's lifestyles. Usually you can shut down your food intake. Let's say it's 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. If you're already doing this, if you want to write in the comments what you do, what's your time slot. And again, it's not what you do all of the time that really matters. It's what you do most of the time. Nothing has to be an all or nothing approach. So if you have a party one day and you want to eat at 11 p.m., I do, that's fine. But what do you do most of the time? Well, most of the time I go at least 12 hours overnight without having anything. I might have some herbal tea that doesn't have any sweetener in it, water with lemon, decaf coffee that doesn't have any sweetener in it or dairy or anything like that. And so there's, little workarounds. And again, it's what you do most of the time. So maybe you want to try this for Sunday night through Thursday night and not dive into the weekend just yet, because if this feels really too hard for you, then you don't have to commit to 7 nights of doing this, but see if you can for the rest of this week. Try to give yourself that 12-hour shift overnight. Your body can do incredible things. Your body can repair itself. It can heal. You become more sensitive to insulin. So when we have all of those insulin spikes and the insulin is too high in our blood system, then what happens is we become resistant to it. So it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf. If you're always yelling at your kid and then your kid runs into the street and you yell at them because you don't want them to get hit by a car, there's less chance that they're going to respond to you yelling at them in that moment if you're always yelling at them because they're used to hearing your voice, right? Just a little mom example that I thought of. But it's the same thing with the insulin. So if you're always calling upon insulin to come and help, come deliver the sugar, get it out of the blood, and your body becomes so used to having this insulin around, it becomes resistant. So now your insulin won't even respond in that same way. So now these dump trucks that are going along, they're just like filling up halfway as they're driving. They're not filling up all of the sugar. And that's when you start to notice things like you have pre-diabetes or you have type 2 diabetes or something like that. That's kind of like later in the game. Now, if it's not super, super, super late when you find out you have this, it's reversible. And I'm well aware that most medical doctors will tell you that it's not reversible. They'll wait for you to get worse and worse so that they could just put you on more meds and more meds. But the truth is, with diet and lifestyle, it's like 99% reversible if you're given the right information. Now, another side note is that a lot of the doctors work with registered dietitians that may tell you to have more and more carbs. Somebody just told me, by the way, a friend of mine said that they were visiting somebody in the hospital and that person was on like specific carbs because they were diabetic and they tried to bring in something healthy. I don't remember what it was. It might have been like a protein smoothie that they made themselves or something. I don't remember. And they said, nope, they couldn't have that. No outside food. And so what was given to them was like 2 packets of graham crackers, apple juice, and like a couple, like at least 2 more carbs was given to them. So clearly, like common sense would tell you that is not the way that you're supposed to be eating. But a lot of times in the medical field, doctors are so concerned about blood sugar levels going too low that they would rather give you high blood sugar and then give you controlled amount of insulin that they're injecting to manage it that way. But the truth is, if you're that stage, if you're pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic, then you're very insulin resistant, and we need to let you get more sensitive to the insulin. And the only way we can let you get more sensitive to the insulin is by letting your insulin levels actually come down. Tiffany, my A1C was a 7 before I knew what was going on years ago. Now it's a 4.6, totally controllable. OMG. Tiffany, that's incredible. Like, that is amazing. Congratulations on that. That's so huge. That's so huge for your health. And the fact that you were able to do that on your own is just incredible. So that's exactly it. You can, there's so many stories. If you're looking for it, you can find a story. I always say that you'll find the evidence that you want. If you want to believe that a certain diagnosis that you have, or your situation, or your age, or whatever is going to get in the way of you accomplishing your goals, like if you're feeling down and depressed and you just want that, you can find the evidence. Like, oh yeah, everyone my age is having problems with their weight, or you can find that evidence as much as you want. But if you want to find the evidence that somebody was in a similar situation and they were still able to get it done, you can find that evidence too. So it's just about what you are looking for. Mary says, what happens when people get hypoglycemic? Yeah, Mary, so obviously this is like a much bigger concern here, and so there are some people that really need to be managed on a clinical level, and so this is not like me telling type 2 diabetics exactly what to do, but they have to get stabilized first. So a lot of people will become hypoglycemic as a reactive to being hyperglycemic, so they're getting those high highs and there's those low lows. So hypoglycemia can be a medical emergency. I've seen it in the hospital setting. It's a big deal. So the first and foremost thing that you need to do is keep these people alive, and that might be where you're giving them some sugar through their IV or the orange juice or whatever. And so those things in the moment for life-saving measures, that make sense. But when you're talking about then transitioning these people back home into their regular lives, they need to be watched carefully, but they don't need to be eating, they shouldn't be eating processed food, right? So any nutritionist or dietitian that tells you to be eating graham crackers on a daily basis, and when you're not talking about an emergency situation, I would be hesitant to listen to them, because we're supposed to be eating real food. So that's a whole other topic sort of. I'm happy to chat with you another time about that. That's a big topic. But yeah, we're doing a disservice when we tell people that it's not possible to reverse these certain conditions that it's totally possible to do for, I'm going to say 99% of people. Tiffany, we are a society that lives on labels. Yes. Yeah, right? So you go to the doctor and they want to diagnose you with something, and then they want to find the medication that matches. And this is because this is what they were trained for. This is what they were taught. And they only have on average 12 minutes with each patient. So they can't, even if they know all about the lifestyle changes that could be made, they don't have time to educate everybody in 12 minutes on the types of exercise and the mindset shifts and the nutrition. They don't have time for that, unfortunately. It's just the situation, which is why a lot of people are budgeting for and saving for and really deciding to go to other practitioners that can help them, and they might have to pay out of pocket right now. I'm very hopeful that in the future these types of services will be covered more by insurance, but that's just not the case right now. So that's why I'm going to my naturopath next week, and it's going to be a lot of money out of pocket, but I would rather do that. So again, this is getting a little bit off topic, but here's what I want you to do. 12 hours of fasting. If you don't have any other sort of medical condition that, tells you that this is not going to be a good idea, of course, but 12 hours overnight, just give your body a chance to rest, recover, heal, rejuvenate. All of that stuff happens when you don't have food in your system that your body's trying to digest first. If you have food in your system and you go to bed, your body's first job is to digest that before it can get to the other stuff, okay? In terms specifically of fat loss, well, that stretch is going to allow your body to dip into an opportunity to utilize your fat to burn up and use as energy. And the best part about that is that you don't have to decrease your metabolism when that happens, because let's say you burn 2,000 calories a day. I'm just doing this for easy math. And you restrict yourself to 1,200 calories a day, which is super low. Please don't do that. You restrict yourself to 1,200 calories a day, but you don't take any measures to lower your insulin. So then what happens is your body just lowers its metabolism down to 1,200 a day. In fact, it'll lower it to 1,150 a day because it really wants to survive, right? But on the other hand, if you're burning 2,000 calories a day and you restrict it to 1,200, again, don't do it. This is just easy math. But you lower your insulin levels, your body would take the 1,200 that you ate, and then it would take 800 from your fat stores, make 2,000, and you would still be burning your 2,000. You wouldn't have to lower your metabolism by doing it that way. So you're using, your fat is on your body to be used, right? That's the reason that we use it, because you're not hooked up to a constant IV or getting a GI tube where you're getting feedings at every 2 seconds, right? So we eat and then we don't eat, and then we eat and then we don't eat. That's just the way that it goes. So you want your fat to be able to be stored and used and stored and used. And if you've got excess fat right now, which is you, if you're looking to lose weight or tone up, then you've got excess fat. You want your body to be able to utilize that. So you have to allow your insulin to come down so you can go into fat burning mode. Pratima says, I started intermittent fasting last July. Awesome. At that time, my A1C was 6.3. It has since gone down to 6.1, and that's with me having some cheat days. That's incredible. That's awesome. See, so just giving yourself that time. And Pratima, I'm curious, what is your time slot with your intermittent fasting? There's a bunch of different intermittent fasting protocols. I'm just curious which one you use, but that's really incredible. Congratulations. Okay, so we're giving ourselves that window overnight, and we're cutting back on snacking. Okay, so pay attention. If you can kind of be like, just watch over yourself today and see how many times you eat. Maybe just make a little line, like, when you have a notebook or something, and you could do like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. Pretty good for doing it backwards. Just keep a little log. How many times are you eating? Because I would bet that we all do this, that you're eating at times that you don't even realize that you are. So think about how many times that you're eating, how many times you're kicking yourself out of that fat burning mode. So you could have a meal and a meal 4 hours later. That's awesome. But if in between you're having like a sleeve of Ritz crackers or even 5 Ritz crackers, you're still going to be setting up that insulin a little bit. And when the insulin is on the rise, you know that you're not burning off your fat then. I eat between 11 and 7. Cheat times with a snack after dinner at like 10 at night, which is the worst thing that you could do. That's okay. But you're being realistic, right? Like, it's not like you had one cheat day and you're like, forget it, I'm all over this intermittent fasting, I'm not going to do it anymore. Like, that's life. Totally. I try to go about 12 hours. Sometimes it's 13, sometimes it's 14, but sometimes it's 8 if we like have company over really late and I'm eating with them. So yeah, it's totally normal and reasonable. It's what you do most of the time, right? And obviously it's working for you, so that's awesome. All right, so we're going 12 hours overnight. We're cutting back on the snacking, so just try to, and you can have your meals be a little bit bigger too. So if you've bought into that whole mindset a long time ago, people were saying like you need to eat 6 meals a day, right? Like, which was based on no actual research or evidence. It was just the thought process that when we eat, our metabolism goes up temporarily because we're burning calories in order to assimilate those nutrients into our body. So when you eat, you do have like a little spike in metabolism. So the thought process was then if you eat 3 times and you've got 3 little spikes in your metabolism, then if you eat 6 times, then you must have even more of a metabolism boost. And the truth is that's not the case. It was relative to what you had to eat. It was like prorated, if that made sense. So if you ate 3 bigger meals, your metabolism spike would be just 3 times, but just bigger. And if you ate 6 smaller meals, you'd have 6 smaller metabolism spikes, but they would be smaller. So basically it'd be the same. So your metabolism isn't any better off if you eat more often. That's a myth, and it was actually never even proven. Pratima says, same for me too. The like most of the time thing. Yes, exactly. We have to be realistic. This is life. So you want your insulin to come down so you can tap into your fat stores. So you're going to do the 12 hours. You're going to avoid snacking or just cut back on it. Like I snack sometimes too, but if you're snacking 5 times a day, see if you can just snack twice a day. And then in terms of the food to eat then for your insulin, this could be like a whole nother crazy long video, but I'm going to keep it simple. Unprocess your plates. The more real, whole, natural foods you eat, the better. The less processed stuff that comes in boxes and bags and all of that, the better. So whether you eat meat or not, eat fish or not, whether you feel like following keto or paleo or whole 30, it doesn't matter. If you're a vegetarian, I'm a vegetarian, none of that matters as much. as it does that you're having more real, whole, unprocessed foods. So with whatever you want that to look like, whatever works for you, keep it real, whole, unprocessed as much as possible. Again, it's the most of the time. It's always got to be reasonable. I don't think that we can say we're never going to eat something out of a box or a bag. I have this protein bar that I absolutely love, and you know, I'll have that with me in my bag if I'm out for the day or whatever. That's fine. It's as unprocessed as I can find with like low sugar and all of that stuff. So I try to find like my best option, but there's always like a ideal, better, best, like there's always different, it's a continuum. So you just have to try to unprocess things slowly and as best as you can. So that's it, you guys. If you love this type of talk, if you're looking to make changes, the weather's getting warmer, it's like bringing people outside and doing more things. If you're looking to make progress with your health and your body and your mindset goals, please make sure you're inside my free Facebook group, because it's free. And these are the things that we're talking about in there. And I share recipes and workouts on Fridays and tips and all kinds of fun stuff like that. So just make sure you get inside the group. And it's a nice community of women, and there's a few men, but it's mostly women, just talking about this stuff. We're all trying to feel better every day. So get on in the group. I'll post a link in the comments, and I was going to post something else. Oh, I was going to post a link to that overeating video that I did too. So I hope you have a great Wednesday. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.